In this video, we will start working with doing everything that we did with data annotation using Fluent API. First, we will start with the most important, which is primary key and then required attribute. Without primary key, you cannot add a model to the database. If the primary key is ID or entity followed by ID, we do not need to specify it explicitly. But if that is not the case, like here, if it is category underscore ID, you need to explicitly tell that this will be a primary key. The way to do that is you have model builder. On that, you need to select what entity you are working on. It can be category, book, or whatever entity, followed by has key. We already saw has key in action when we created a composite key. So let's give that a try on our book model. So let's give that a try on the Fluent classes that we have. All of the Fluent API will go inside the application DB context. So do not forget that. Let's first start with the book detail. In book detail, we have two things. We have key and the required. Do not worry about the relationships right now. So we will go to Fluent underscore book details and we will add that. Let me see where. First is the ID and required is on number of chapters. Awesome. So in here we have our override method and let's start right here. First we have the book details. So we'll do model builder dot entity will be book details. And on that, we need the primary key. That will be done using has key. And we'll go to B goes to B dot book detail underscore ID. This will set the primary key of book details to book detail underscore ID. Next thing we had was the required. Let's take a look at the syntax for required. In that, we will select the entity. And then we need to select the property on which we want to set some of the constraint. So if we want to set title to required, we need the dot property. We'll navigate to title and in there we will set the is required property. So let me do that. Right here, we'll go to model builder dot entity. It's the book detail entity. And in there, we need to select the property. So we'll do dot property and we can say B goes to B dot what property we want to work with. I believe it was number of chapters. Let me just make sure in the book detail. Yep, it is the number of chapter. So right here, this is the property and on that we want to set is required. You can see there are many other options available like has max length and much more. But what we want to work right now is required. Once you set this, that will make sure that this is a required property. With that, we complete both of the annotations that we needed in book details. How do we test this? In order to do that, let's add a DB set for the book details. So in here, after the book author, let me do a prop DB set. This will be of book author but Fluent. Actually book details, my bad. And let's call this Fluent book details. Great. Once we add this, let's add the new migration. So add migration Fluent book details to DB. We need to make sure both of the conditions that we added are visible in our migration. So right here, we see the weird error which says Fluent underscore book details needs a primary key. I thought we already added that. Whoops. We were working on book details, but this will be Fluent underscore book details. Make sure this is consistent and let's add this again. The error should go away. Great, the migration is right here. It creates a book detail with primary key with the book detail ID and we have the nullable false. So everything is working as expected. That being said, let's update the database. Great. So with this, we are able to figure two things out with Fluent API. The first one is the required and the later one is the primary key.